Hi, I'm Wayne Jennings, and I'm out here on a gorgeous winter day doing a bit of snowshoeing. Today I've brought along a new little action camera I'm going to check out. This is the Victure AC940. It's a compact little action camera that, shoots 4K and does time-lapse and slow motion. But the nice feature about this camera is it is waterproof. Right out of the box. You don't have to put it in an underwater housing or anything like that. It is waterproof the way it is. So it's great for, if you're snorkeling, if you're out in your canoe, your kayak, if it starts raining, or certainly for winter activities like today. So let's go check it out. The Victure AC940 is a waterproof action camera capable of recording video at resolutions of 720 at 60, 120, or 240 frames per second, 1080 at 30, 60, or 120 frames per second, 2.7K at 30 frames per second, and 4K video at 30 and 60 frames per second. It will capture still images in sizes ranging from 5 up to 20 megapixels. It weighs in at a modest 130 grams. That's about 4.5 ounces. And it retails between $120 and $160 US. The camera is sold as a kit with everything you see here. Now, the camera itself is designed with watertight seals. That allows it to be submerged down to a depth of 5 meters. That's about 16 feet. Now, if you want to go deeper, you want to use this included waterproof housing. It's rated for a depth of 40 meters. That's 131 feet. The camera comes with 2 lithium-ion rechargeable batteries and a USB charging cable. Each battery is 3.7 volts and rated at 1,350 milliamp hours. You get a nice assortment of mounting hardware, including some tripod adapters, and there are 2 quick release plates and extra adhesive tape. Zip ties, straps, Velcro strips, and a metal lanyard are included to help secure your camera. It comes with a handy 2-button remote control, and there's a user manual, a quick start guide, and a lens cleaning cloth. This camera looks and feels very rugged and durable. It's got a good weight to it. It is not light or plasticky feeling. It feels very durable, and it's got this kind of rubberized ring around the outside to help give you a good grip on this camera. The front is dominated by the wide-angle lens. On the bottom of the camera we have a metal tripod socket. That is always a nice feature to see. Beside that is this battery door. Now, to open that you have to push this little button and slide it, and then it opens up. There's a metal hinge there, and underneath there's this big gasket that keeps everything waterproof, and there's your battery, and above it is the micro SD card. On the far end here we have another little compartment. Again, you have to push the button and slide it, and inside there you'll find your USB port and your micro HDMI port. Again, that's designed to keep everything waterproof. Above that is a small speaker behind that membrane. On the far end we have our power button, and on the top of the camera are a couple buttons here. There's your main shutter button, and beside it is this mode button, which helps you cycle through the menu when you're not using the touch screen. There's a little tiny microphone between those 2 buttons. Now we'll just power it on using this switch, and you'll see in the back here is the screen. It's a 2-inch screen, and it's a touch screen. Now when you first turn it on, it defaults to the video mode. You see this little video camera up there. To switch to photo mode, you just have to swipe from the side, and now you have the little photo still camera icon. So you can swipe from either side to switch from photo to video. Then if you hit this little gear icon down here, you get into the menu. And it's quite an extensive menu, and again, being touchscreen, you can scroll through and make your selections. So say you want to change the video resolution, You just hit that top one, and then it opens up all this display, which from 720, 1080, 2.7 up to 4K. So you make your selection, touch it, and there you go. Now, like I say, there's a lot of things you can change. You can set the image stabilizer, exposure compensation, turn on time lapse, put a date stamp on there. Then there's also a sub-menu, if you hit this button, which goes in and lets you do further selections like the white balance, special effects, distortion, calibration, a diving mode, auto power off, things like that. Hit that button and we get back to the main screen. There's also a playback button down here. If you push that, you can play back your videos or watch your photos on there. Now, if you swipe up from the bottom, there's like a sub-menu if you need to quickly get to something. For instance, if you want to do the time lapse or slow motion or set the Wi-Fi, you can do so by swiping up from the bottom. Now, like I mentioned, this is touchscreen, but if this is in the underwater housing, you of course cannot use the touchscreen, and that's where this mode button comes in. So say it was in the housing and you want to make some settings, you have to use a combination of these buttons. So if you hit that top mode button, you get this sub-menu, and then you can select, say, video. Touching that shutter button takes you to the menu. Hitting it again takes you to a selection, and then the side button here will scroll through the list and until you get to what you want to change, and then you hit that top button again. You can then go in and then select it, hit it. Once you've made all your selections, hit that mode button again, and it takes you out of it. Now, it takes a bit of practice to figure out what button does what, so I certainly prefer using the touch screen on the back. It's certainly much easier to use. Okay, that's enough of that technical jargon. You probably want to see how good the video recorded with this camera is. Well, let's take a look at some right now. Here's a little audio test of the Victure AC940. Now, just to let you know, right now, I'm using this. This is a digital audio recorder with a plug-in microphone, and I basically use this on all my productions to get good, clean sound. So that's the audio you're hearing right now, but I'm gonna turn it off, and then you hear my voice as the camera picks it up. So let me just stop it here. Okay, what you're hearing now is my voice as the camera microphone picks me up. Now, I'm basically arm's length away from the camera, so I'm not very far, and actually I find the sound on this camera is pretty darn good. A lot of these little action cameras record at low levels and you have to boost them and it brings in hiss. I find this camera, it's not perfect, but it's one of the better cameras I've tested for recording audio, so I'm very pleased with that. This camera does a very nice job producing time-lapse sequences. You can record a single frame of video every 1, 3, 5, 10, 30, or 60 seconds. Still photos can be captured in sizes of 5, 8, 10, 14, 16, or 20 megapixels. There is also a photo burst mode, a self-timer mode, and there is also a long exposure mode, letting you get some nice nighttime shots. This camera has several slow motion settings. When shooting at 60 frames per second, you get this half-speed effect. Shooting at 120 frames per second gives you this nice 1/4 speed effect. And cranking it up to 240 frames per second will result in a 1/8 speed shot. Now the Victure AC940 has a built-in image stabilizer. That feature is turned off right now. I'm just walking along this forested area. It's a little uneven here. I'm just holding the camera at arm's length on a selfie stick. So this just gives you an idea how the image looks without an image stabilizer. I'm gonna go back, retrace my steps, walk over the same terrain, but I'll turn the image stabilizer on and we can compare the two. Okay, so now that image stabilizer feature is turned on, and as you can see, it is a little smoother. Maybe not as smooth as, say, using a powered gimbal, but it definitely smooths things out a bit, so it helps a bit when you're doing these kind of handheld shots, where you want things to be a little smoother. This camera has an EV, that's exposure value setting, which can be adjusted up or down by 2 stops in 1-stop increments. White balance can be left on auto or set to daylight, shade, or tungsten. And the ISO can be left on auto or set to 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, or as high as 3200 ISO. This camera has an extreme wide-angle lens, which unfortunately can sometimes give you that fisheye appearance. If you notice on the horizon behind me, it's a bit curved. It's higher in the middle and lower on the sides. Now, to eliminate that, there's a function called the distortion correction. When you turn that on, it kind of flattens things out. So let's switch it on and you can see what a difference it makes. Now I've turned the distortion correction feature on, and as you can see from the horizon behind me, things have leveled out. So that's a nice way to get rid of that fisheye effect. This camera can be operated from a distance using the included remote control. Now this is really simple. There are just 2 buttons on here. If you push the white one, the camera will begin to record video and will keep recording until you push that button again. And if you push the red one, the camera will snap a still picture. And each time you push that, the camera will take another picture. However, for more versatility, you'll want to download the app to let you use your phone to control your camera. As you can see on here, there's the image that the camera sees. And you can hit the record button and start recording. You can take still photos as well, but you can also go in and change settings. If you hit this button, there's a list of resolutions you can change. There's a menu up here. You can go in and change different things like your white balance and your exposure compensation and your slow motion and things like that. And of course, you can also view what's on there. So if you hit this button, it will connect and load all the photos and videos you've taken with the camera so you can preview them and play them back. So this is a much better way to control your camera from a distance, because basically what you see on here is what you get. So just to wrap up, my final thoughts on the Victure AC940 action camera. I was really pleased with this little camera, especially the fact that it's waterproof. So, if you're out in your kayak, you get caught in a rainstorm, you drop it in the snow, it doesn't matter. You just wipe it off and you keep going. It's not going to leak in and ruin the electronics. So that is a really great feature to have in an action camera. And as far as the quality, I was really impressed with the video quality at all resolutions. However, I found when shooting at 60 frames per second, the images were a little bit soft. Now, they weren't like crazy soft out of focus, but compared to 30 frames per second, they were definitely a little softer in the background around the edges. So in my opinion, if you're going to use this camera a lot, stick to 30 frames per second and you'll get great results. Also, the audio that this camera records is pretty darn good. Now, you cannot plug in an external microphone, but the built-in mic on this camera does a half-decent job at picking up sound. So overall, a very good choice for an action camera.